In this episode of Snakemore Says, which is a little bit different from the usual concept and is aimed at promoting abstract thinking, we're taking inspiration from an article written 10 years ago by Swedish public educator Carl Norberg. To live a life of endless acceptance is to live a life of meaningless obscurity. When man arrives at his deathbed, he wants to reflect on all his regrets and his experiences of joy. Most of us would probably rather find joy than sadness when we look back on our past, to die satisfied with the life we have lived. For the never questioning, however, this will not be possible. For what have they ever done but fulfill the desires of others? What will they be left with? A world worse off than when they were born. What will they feel they have accomplished, except more pain and struggle for generations to come? In the end, what has their life really been worth? I can't imagine a torture more brutal and terrifying than to realize in your mind in your last days that you have wasted your whole life trying to please a multitude of idiots around you instead of educating them and yourself to shape a better tomorrow. I therefore cannot imagine a more severe punishment than to spend most of one's years as a slave without even knowing it. I cannot imagine an existence more deserving of pity and remorse than that of the never questioning. To contribute to the maintenance of illusions, to live within a lie. It's often said that there are only two kinds of people in this world, those who know and those who don't. I would rather expand and say that there are three types of people: those who know, those who don't know, and those who don't want to know, don't care to know. Those who don't care to know are the kind of people I would characterize as useful idiots. Useful idiots are members of a culture or society that are not necessarily completely unaware of the reality of their surroundings. They may have been exposed to valuable and descriptive truths about reality on numerous occasions, but when they are confronted with facts that contradict their conditioned point of view, cognitive dissonance occurs, and they become aggressive and antagonistic in their behavior. They try to dismiss and attack the truth that better describes reality by attacking the messenger and denying acceptance, so as not to have to question themselves in relation to their self-perception. Useful idiots exist on both sides of the illusional political spectrum, and they exist in all social classes. In fact, the professional class and the hierarchy of academia are rampant breeding grounds for useful idiots, which I therefore sometimes call educated criminals. Doctors and lawyers, scientists and politicians are all just as likely to spread the plague of being useful idiots as anyone else. The only difference is that they have a bureaucratic apparatus behind them, which give them a false sense of importance. All they must do is follow the establishment and promote the establishment line. Of course, the common argument from useful idiots is that all people think, and that people who think differently are the ones who are really blind to reality, which in their minds somehow justifies their behavior. However, the trait that absolutely defines a useful idiot is not necessarily a lack of knowledge, but rather an unwillingness to consider or embrace an obvious logic or truth, in order to protect their egos and prejudices from harm. A useful idiot mindset is driven by self-centered motives and an inability for altruism. Intelligent gangsters steer educated criminals to control useful idiots. The role of traditional media is increasingly to reinforce the aggressive mindset that gives an illusion of normality in useful idiocy, because this constitutes the majority of the population, and that the opinion of the majority, which is constructed by the mainstream media, is the only correct view, for the very simple reason that the majority knows best, because democracy prevails. Many free-thinking people have recently realized that there has been a large upsurge in establishment media propaganda, aimed at painting free-thinking people and cultures of freedom as being anything from reactionary, extremist, or conspiracy theorist to pure pathological insanity that should be forcibly medicated. The television features also increasingly seem to have been specially designed to seek out the worst possible representatives of the people who question society, to paint them in the worst possible light. This is very similar to the advocacy tactics used by the institutional press in large-scale protests, as they generally prefer to interview the least eloquent people who are the easiest to ridicule, and to present and make these people instant mascots for the whole group, and the philosophy that the group is expressed to hold. The goal is to give useful idiots the identification that they themselves are normal and that anyone who steps outside the boundaries of their useful normality is the one who is abnormal. This makes them a welcome target for the collective contempt and aversion. This is nothing but a well-engineered polarization. It seems that the life of a useful idiot is a life of relative happiness. Ignorance is bliss. The whole societal machine seems to be engineered to make them happy and the rest of us miserable. But is the existence of a useful idiot really the ideal one? Is man happy in his ignorance? Are they safe within the framework of the system? Does being a mentally lazy laborer in the vineyard necessarily lead to happiness at the end of the road? Does useful idiocy lead to experiences of emotions that have made a difference and made things better for others? Unfortunately not. People feel positive feelings about developing as individuals, together with other people, to enrich each other spiritually. People can only experience their own emotions as individuals, but collectively we need each other's perspectives and viewpoints in order to grow and evolve as a society. Freedom starts with freedom of thought, and an open and honest dialogue with altruistic ideals must be the basis for societal progress. This is the only way we can break the cycle of self-interests controlling the world we live in. Where we go one, we go all is not just a catchphrase. Stand together. Prepare. The calm before the storm. We're about to find out.